Happy Tuesday, everybody. It is showtime, and you are here with the Buzz Fantasy Football Podcast. With me, as always, over here is Cyclops. 2020 hopefully will join us a little later. We're not sure, we think so, but tonight, ladies and gentlemen, like we do every Tuesday night, is we get you ready for this week. Thursday, special day. We've got 3 games on Thursday. Then coming into Sunday, we got to get you guys ready because playoffs are coming, Brad.
Is this not the best Thursday of the year, right? Every other Thursday there's football, but this year there's 3 football games. This week, there's 3 football games, right? It used to be only
Correct.
1, then it got 2, now it's 3. So it basically starts, at when you wake up on Thursday and goes all day. Anyway, you know why I'm happy? Wow. It's like there's a halo around you. And can you turn your back feed off? Do you mind? 2020? Is because I am in 6 leagues, and in every league right now, except 1 actually, well 2, I'm 1 game out of the playoffs or leading in my fantasy league. And I know it's time to brag just for a quick moment, and I'm going to. So there you have it. I know it's over. Don't worry.
No. I mean, look, the only reason I'm shaking my head is because you had a very bad week as far as your predictions. And in fact, I'm waiting for the Bills to come in.
Me?
Because
what was my prediction?
Yeah. Well, the first one was the fact that you said Cam Newton was going to do nothing. That old spaghetti arm.
What did he do?
What did he do? He was QB4. He was QB4 this past week. Are you kidding me?
Because he ran for 2
you. It doesn't matter what he did. He could have jumped over.
I said with his arm.
It doesn't.
I missed a fun week last week on the show, didn't I?
And then,
yes,
on top of that, we had a bet at the end of the show. The last question was whether or not, and I forget who it was. Might have been Travis, who said, "Are you going to start Mike Williams or do you start Bateman?" And you said you got to go with Bateman, and you went through this whole diatribe about how bad Mike Williams is. And I said, you know what? I disagree with you. Mike Williams is going to have a better week than Bateman. And again, dollars. I'm waiting for
I'll give you the dollar on that one. Mike Williams got saved with 1 catch with 1 minute left in the game. They never should have been even in that position. It almost cost me the week because I was playing against them. And
all right, ladies. Let's get back to fantasy football.
Turn your mic down.
Turn your mic down.
My mic. I don't know how to turn my mic down. Anyway, let's get back to some fantasy football. But man, that sounded like a fun week last week.
I just saw, if I'm correct, unless it was fake news, that Adrian Peterson is getting released.
Was cut. Yeah,
what did I tell you about Peterson? Done.
Yeah.
Over. Not going to happen in Tennessee. You both owe me $1.
What are you talking about?
I never said. I don't know you anything.
But it's okay. It's okay. But tonight, you know what? That's all in the past. We're talking about moving forward, and hopefully we'll answer your questions, and Brad will do a better job of answering them for you. But that's where we are right now with week 12. We're going to go through the waivers. We're going to talk about some of the positions and some of the best players out there to pick up. And then we got some surprises. Each of us are going to come up with a little tidbit, a little something. I know I've got a few things in store. I know you guys do as well. Do we want to jump right in? I see that we have a lot of comments here.
We already have a few comments. Kenneth is trying to call in. We don't know why that's not
Kenneth,
working.
give us a call. Give us a call in about 20 minutes when we know everything's working with the phones.
Right. Travis got another win this week.
Vampire Travis
gave his brother-in-law his first loss. Wow, 10 weeks in, you get your first loss. Nice job, Travis.
That's impressive.
Hopefully that's from getting help from us. And Javi, my question, Javi, we don't understand the question, so put that in again. Let's jump right. Let's get through these waivers. There's not that many waivers out there, right?
There's not a ton. Some interesting ones, but not a ton.
Yeah, so let's jump right into. Let's say at 2020. I know you've got quarterbacks.
I do.
What's going on with that?
I do have quarterbacks, and look at this point, the majority of quarterbacks to be taken have been taken. So we're going to talk about, we know what's obviously has already been taken. So let's talk about what has come up as possibly interesting for this upcoming
hold on
weekend?
1 second. I don't know. Is it real loud on your side there too, Brad? Because it seems almost like hitting that. Okay, you can
really
maybe move back a little from the mic, or
I did. I don't know. It's weird. I haven't changed anything. Is this better?
Right. Not really. But go ahead.
Okay. I don't know. It's weird. I can't believe I'm about to say this, but the guy keeps putting up numbers. But Trevor Siemian, again, if you're hurting at quarterback and you need somebody, don't go by his position rank, because of course he just came on. He's rostered in less than 7% of leagues, but all this guy's done in the last 4 weeks has thrown for 3 touchdowns, 2 touchdowns, 2 touchdowns, and then a touchdown. 30 points, 23 points. The guy's been putting up numbers. Did this against a pretty respectable defense too in Tennessee and last week at Philadelphia. And he's going to come in. He has a nice home game against Buffalo, which is becoming a little exploitable, as we're seeing as of late through the air. And because that's going to be a game that's going to be a shootout, I like Trevor Siemian. If you need help, you've lost some, Kyler Murray still isn't back, but not a ton out there. But believe it or not, I actually like Trevor Siemian. Another interesting pickup right now is Jimmy G, Mr. GQ Garoppolo. He's coming in at the 21th ranked quarterback. He's barely rostered anywhere, 13.5%. But this is another guy the last couple of weeks, multiple touchdowns in 3 consecutive weeks, 2 touchdowns. By the way, Trevor Siemian, last week also not only two touchdowns in the air, but 1 rushing touchdown as well. But Garoppolo has had 2 of the last 4 weeks over 300 yards. He's putting up multiple touchdowns. But the reason why, again, if you need a quarterback, if you're having an issue, I love the matchup this week at home against Minnesota. Cousins, Jefferson, Cook, Thielen, they are putting up points. So I see this being a high-scoring game where they're going to have to come out. Garoppolo has found Brandon Ayuk again. Kittle's back and healthy. And, of course, Deebo Samuel has been an absolute stud. So he's not a bad pickup if you are in need of a quarterback.
Keep going.
Carson Wentz, unbelievably to me, still rostered in under.
That's the quarterback of the week to pick up.
I know, and he's only rostered in 46% of leagues. Here's the problem with Carson Wentz. He does have a nice position rank of 14, and he was doing very consistently, very good for a bit. The last 2 weeks, though, for people that were depending upon him, he put up absolute duds for one reason, and his name is Jonathan Taylor. When you have a running back that could run for 900 yards in a game every week, it seems, it's like they don't have to throw. But that might change this week because they're going up against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay very strong on the ground, but weak in their secondary. And they can score. So Wentz is an interesting pickup if you need someone to play, and if you have guys like Patrick Mahomes, who, and this is something we're going to talk about later.
Yeah.
This guy's been crazy, or Kyler Murray, if we know he's going to be back. Actually, he's on bye anyway. So anyway, another interesting guy. And I think, honestly, that's really it. We talk about Tua, but he's starting to get rostered. He's not going to be in a lot of leagues and available. He should already be off the waivers. Plus, I don't really like the matchup this week, but that's going to round out quarterbacks for us this week.
All right, great. So, Brad, you were going to say something?
I'm getting a lot of feedback.
I'm just going to mute him. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, so no, what I'm going to go through some players. I'm not going to go into super detail because at this point, you kind of know there's not that many running backs or wide receivers out there. There's a few. If you need people, there's people on bye. Obviously, Kansas City's on bye, and there's some other teams on bye. So I'm just going to go through the players. I'm not going to give huge detail in them. We also have a couple other comments here.
Yeah, so what you didn't understand about Javi was he was confirming that he was the one who asked about Williams or Bateman, and that I said Williams, you said Bateman, and Javi, you're right. He does owe me $1. Thank you for confirming that.
Yes. I'll take it off your tab from all the other dollars that 2020 owes me.
Okay. You
wish, pal.
Computer here.
All right. So running backs. All right. This is what we're going to have in running backs. There's just not a lot out there. DJ Dallas, right? Penny got hurt. I think he played one play. We kind of knew that was going to happen. Obviously, Carson's done. They're a mess there. The whole team offense is a mess. But if you need to plug someone in for a week, DJ Dallas may be the guy. Tevin Coleman, obviously Carter's now out for 2 to 3 weeks with an ankle sprain. I actually like Ty Johnson there a little bit better, but I do believe they're going to split time. Talking about that, Zach Wilson is going to be playing again. They put Flacco and Mike White on COVID today, on the COVID list. So it looks like what?
No, it's crazy, and it's just I kind of wish the Dolphins had a chance to go after Zach Wilson rather than Flacco last week. I mean, we still got the W, but it would have been nice.
Yeah, no, I mean they got the W. It's just that team's a mess. And we actually have a question here. Well, let me finish the running backs. There's Gainwell, right? Because
Gainwell, because Jordan Howard was let go.
Well, no, he wasn't let go. He was hurt.
He's hurt. Excuse me.
So he's hurt. So they're gonna bring Gainwell back up. Gainwell was a healthy scratch last week, but again, their best running back is their quarterback. So I wouldn't put too much into that. Matt Breida has been interesting lately. He's got a couple decent weeks. He's getting touches. They're bringing him in. He's got 10 points and I think 15 points in the last 2 weeks. He's healthy. He's probably the best running back they have there, especially as far as receiving. So if you need someone to plug in.
You're kind of scratching the surface, right? It's almost better to throw in a receiver at flex rather than one of these running backs.
Yeah, and these are just guys, if you need someone. Wide receivers that are out there that, they likely should be there in your league, but not necessarily. But Darnell Mooney, right? People picked him up early in the year where he had a big week, and then he didn't do anything for several weeks, and now all of a sudden he's back.
16 targets. Oh my
16.
God.
Yeah, and Robinson looks like he may be out. So Mooney is the guy.
Yeah.
There. So if he's out there,
is Robinson out?
Robinson might be out. It hasn't been officially ruled, but he's battling some injuries. So I think he had left the game at some point last week. After he was actually showing a little bit of life, he left the game because he was injured. DeAndre Carter has 3 or 4 weeks in a row now of 10 to 15 point games. He's getting looks. He's getting targets, right? Heineke looks like a usable quarterback, right? So if he's someone that's out there, you need someone good. You mentioned the before, Brandon Ayuk. People have picked him up and dropped him and picked him up and dropped him. All of a sudden, he's becoming consistent in that offense. The offense is definitely moving a little bit better. So, again, he's getting the targets. He's getting, he and Samuel, they used more running back than they did wide receiver. As someone mentioned here, they should just put Debo as a running back. I mean, the guy's, why wouldn't you want that? Except they're not going to use him. But Debo had 8 or 9 rushes last game for 79 yards. So that was awesome.
And Samuel should just be a running back. Who said that? Hold on. Who said that? That he should just be a running back? Oh, it's just Facebook.
Because they should just make Debo a wide receiver last week.
Go ahead.
I think he had 1 or 2 catches, but
I think he had 1 catch.
Yeah. But completely faded.
But he didn't. I mean, he didn't really fade because he.
No. I'm saying as a wide receiver, he faded last week. It's interesting. He was more of a running back.
Yeah, they didn't even need him at that point.
Yeah, not as a fantasy player. I'm saying it was just interesting. Yeah,
it's the Cordell Patterson effect.
Okay, so let's break in real quick. We've got a wide receiver question. I don't think Javi. I'm not going to let Brad answer this one this week because I know he hopefully didn't let you down. But you're asking now about Elijah Moore, Judy Williams, or Bateman. I will tell you that the only 2 that I would consider right now would be Williams and Moore. But the problem with Moore is now we're back to Zach Wilson.
Right.
And I'm not sure what that's going to look like, other than maybe 6 sacks against him. So in this case, I'm going with Mike Williams again. I don't know how you guys feel. I actually have him ranked as my number 39, my 39 flex position. So, and that would include running backs too. So I really like the matchup against Denver. I know that it's not, Denver doesn't have a really bad pass defense. I just think that we're going to see another Mike Williams week. What do you guys think?
Man,
But I won't bet you, so don't worry.
I'm trying to look up. I seem to think that Elijah Moore started to come on even when Zach Wilson is there. I know we've had it's 3 weeks now, right? We had Mike White, then Mike White / Josh Johnson, and now Flacco. But I kind of remember even Elijah Moore started his breakout while Wilson was there. I mean, I think it's just too hard to ignore this guy's talent, and this defense is horrific. And now they're without Michael Carter, to check down to. I'm all in on this guy. The kid's a talent. So and with Williams, he's disappeared. He's back. You were just picking one here. It is tough with just picking one.
Oh, need one out of those. Wow.
I mean, I don't know. I honestly probably would go Judy. I mean, he's the alpha 1A there. Cortland Sutton he's on the back of milk cartons because no one's seen him for 3 weeks because it's been the Jerry Judy show. I probably would go Jerry Judy as much as I like Elijah Moore.
2020. Okay. Are you done dancing because you've
Did you not hear me to say I settled on Judy?
I thought that this guy.
I gave an explanation. I settled on Judy.
By the way, when Elijah Moore didn't start doing anything until after Mike White came in. And when I say anything, I mean anything of fantasy relevance. And that was week 8 against Cincinnati at 6 catches for 67 yards. Then he had 84 yards, 44, then 141. So I'm staying away from Elijah Moore right now until we can see more of his book. But there you go. Brad, you want to be the tiebreaker here? I got Williams. 2020's got Judy. What do you say?
So what I'm going to say here is I don't think I can be the tiebreaker with those two. I cannot get on the Williams train. I am going to go with Elijah Moore here. I know that Wilson is back. I can't get on the Williams train. Bateman, I know that Lamar is still sick, and they're saying that it's probably 50-50 at this point if he plays. So I'm not comfortable there. But I'm going to go Elijah Moore. Yeah,
so you know what it was? He didn't produce with Wilson there, but what struck me was that he was, I think, the second in targets. Wilson targeted him 6 times. They only connected once, which is true, Lubin. Seth, you're right, because can Wilson, even though he's targeting him, can he get him the ball? I mean, it's just what I love about this kid. If you look at his last 5 weeks, 6 targets, 6 targets, 8 targets, 6 targets, 11 targets to go with three weeks in a row of touchdowns. You're right, though. It's not Mike White and Josh Johnson passing him the ball. So it's kind of, I agree. It's a wait and see. Let's see if Wilson can get it to him. I do agree with you there.
They've all been getting the ball there, right? Recently, 3 different quarterbacks. So the fact that they're figuring out how to get him the ball shouldn't change. It's just if Wilson can get him the ball.
All right. So Kenneth putting claims for Ramondre Stevenson and Devontae Foreman. I keep saying this every time Kenneth says he picked up somebody. I'm surprised that they were available.
Right.
So to answer your question,
are they available?
Pickups? Obviously, Stevenson I like a lot. The Foreman pick is good too. However, we saw Hilliard come in at the end of the game, and it could have been just a 1-week wonder because McNichols was out. So Hilliard kind of took that job that McNichols had, and he ended up actually having the same amount of carries as Foreman last week. But he had a lot of catches too. So both of these guys, I don't know if Stevenson's going to have the job when Harris comes back. These got to be just streamers or just people to pick up a little bit. Now I'm going to try the phone again to see if it works. Kenneth, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Kenneth? Well,
no, we're not here.
Yeah, Kenneth, can you hear me? Well, I had even rebooted my computer. So it has nothing. It's not that. I don't know what's going on.
It's something else we don't know. I'm gonna throw out one more wide receiver as a streamer this week, and that's Cedric Wilson, because CD Lamb, even though it didn't seem like he could catch a ball the other day,
he kept dropping.
But
Kenneth, just put we're turning off the phone. Just go ahead and put your comments on YouTube Live or Facebook Live, and we'll get right to it.
Yeah, with Cooper out and CD Lamb banged up and probably out, they're gonna have to throw to somebody.
Yeah, that's a great choice.
Yeah,
that's a great idea. Gallup and Wilson. Let me ask you guys a question. Who's the number one quarterback in fantasy football right now?
It could go a few different ways, but as I was doing research, it's Mahomes.
Points.
Mahomes.
What are you talking about overall? Like
overall,
going forward, or
2021 overall to this date? Who's the number one quarterback?
I would assume it depends on the league. Like
in
one league,
it is. Just give me a name.
Mahomes.
What do you think, Keith? Without looking.
I actually think it is still Pat Mahomes, if not Josh Allen.
It is actually Jalen Hurts is the
number
one quarterback in fantasy football right now. And I don't know who this Facebook user is. They're asking if Lamar plays this week. And Brad, you've already said it's a big if, right? If Lamar plays this week, should we start him or should we start Jalen Hurts? I'll give my opinion real quick, and it's not just because I have Lamar, but also because of the matchups. Lamar Jackson's my number one quarterback this week. If he plays, you go with Lamar. If he doesn't play, obviously you've got Hurts. Hurts I have as my number 4 quarterback this week. I know they're playing the Giants. I don't see it being a game where he's going to get those rushing yards like he did last week. I don't know what you guys think. I mean, you can't go wrong either way.
And I would agree with you. You're not going to go wrong either way. It's a toss up. But I mean, what Hurts is doing on the ground is insane. And with Lamar being a little banged up, the only question is, would they be tentative with him? Would he be a little more tentative being hurt? Where Hurts right now is healthy and they're committed to the run game, which he's like the biggest part of it seems. So, if I was pressed, I probably would go Hurts just because Lamar's coming off the injury.
Lamar is not hurt. Lamar has been sick.
Oh, he was sick. That's right. It was a non-COVID illness, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So we'll see.
That's a good point.
Kenneth, we know it's not working. It's going to voicemail. So maybe on there you have the voicemail turned on. Is that why maybe it's going Commish? I don't know, but that's what he's saying.
I tried that. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that right now.
Okay, we're gonna have to work on that this week. But Kenneth, type in the information you have. We'll get to it, and unfortunately, we'll do it that way. But we'll talk to you through here.
We actually have another question here, and it hits us home, right? Do we go with Schultz or Gesicki? My first reaction is you go with Schultz this week. Gesicki plays against Carolina. They are okay. They're pretty good. They're on the better side of defenses against tight ends, although Gesicki isn't your typical tight end. Right. But again, just like with the quarterback question, I don't think you're going to go wrong either way. What do you guys think?
Well,
agreed. It's just with if Lamb in concussion protocol and Cooper possibly not playing, it's going to be a lot of balls that are up for grabs. And Schultz, along with, of course, Gallup, should be the benefactors of that. I love them both. Like Commish said, you're not going to go wrong with either. But I tip a little more towards Schultz just because of the injuries to Lamb and Cooper.
Right. Yeah. With those two things in effect, I definitely think Schultz would be the play over Gesicki this week. It's who? Let's see. I should know this, but who did the Dolphins get this week?
Carolina.
Oh, right. You just said that Carolina. Yeah, Carolina's not that great against the pass.
Against tight ends, they're 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. They're about 13 against the tight ends on their defense, which isn't bad. Again, that's on the upper half of tight end defenses this year. But again, like I said, there's not a lot of really good tight ends out there.
Right. So
it depends on who Carolina was playing and whether or not they were playing against good tight ends all season. So it's a kind of a misleading stat. But the truth of the matter is You're not going to go wrong with either one, but with the lack of receivers happening right now in Dallas, you got it. In my opinion, you got to go with Schultz here.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those good and bad situations to have, right? You have two really good tight ends. Which one do you start? If you only had one of them, then it's an easy decision.
All right. Let me see. Do we have another comment here?
Yep. Bucks. There we go.
Bucks defense over Bears. Think Taylor might eat up that defense.
Yeah, the Bucks defense. Whew. The Bears have been playing really, really well this right now, but they're playing Detroit. So I don't even know how this is really a question. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the Bucks do have a good defense, but I agree. I mean, Goff might be coming back, which is probably a good thing for the Bears defense because he has been Goff awful. So I would sit the Bucks, even though they're tasty, because Indy's putting up points. Yep.
Yeah, and I think you're going to have a lot of points in that game. I don't know what the line is, but I'm probably going to go with the over on that.
Yeah.
I think we could see a shootout there. Kenneth, Broncos versus Chiefs and 49ers versus Seahawks. I'll switch places. Broncos versus Chiefs will be the Sunday nighter next week, and 49ers versus Seahawks will be 3:30 next week. Oh, yeah. I see.
It's the flex game. They're this week starts the flex games, so they move them into the Sunday night matchup. Broncos and Chiefs.
All right. Well, thank you for the information there, Kenneth. Guys, do we want to start getting into some other items that we have kind of done with waivers? Obviously, if people have questions, they want to know who to pick up, who to start, you can always put a comment in the YouTube Live or Facebook Live section, and we will break into the show and get right to you. In the meantime, go ahead, Brad. You're about to say something.
No, as we get into this, one of the questions, and I know you're going to, in truth, we're going to do some different things, but I wanted to, not that everybody doesn't know their schedule and thinking about it, but you remember you have an extra week this year, right? So right now there'd be 2 weeks left in your regular season leagues for the most part, maybe some are 3, depending on how many people you have in the league and how many people are in the playoffs. But we can go by our main league that all 3 of us are in, and we have an extra week. So right now there's teams that are 6-5, 5-6, and fighting for playoff spots. You actually have 3 weeks left here. So there is still time for that last push, compared to the 2 weeks. So, people should keep that in mind and remember that. Make sure you're aware of your schedule.
No, absolutely. And more importantly, on the short term, make sure you get your lineup set Thursday morning. You do not have Thursday afternoon to make sure that your Thursday guys are ready to go. And
there's a lot of them this year. Week.
Speaking of Thanksgiving, what I put together, I kind of look back over all the years and try to find the best Thanksgiving performances. And, the first thought I had is when I was a kid, you guys, I don't even know if you were born yet. I'm sure you were. But when I was 12 years old, I was camping, and my parents had this small little black and white TV with the antenna, and we were able to get the Dolphins against the Cardinals. It was 1977, Thanksgiving, and I remember at the time, I don't know if you guys ever heard of a player named Conrad Dobler, but Conrad Dobler was supposed to be the meanest, dirtiest guy in the NFL. And so during the 70s, anybody that played against Dobler was like everyone on the opposing team. It was just the crowd. Everybody was against this guy, hated this guy. So when Miami played him, it was like extra special that we were going to go up against Conrad Dobler. And Greasy came in and he threw 6 touchdown passes for the Dolphins. Now, he only threw for 200 yards. So for fantasy purposes, he really didn't achieve those numbers that you would expect when somebody throws 6 touchdown passes. So he had a fantastic fantasy week, but it wasn't up there with the rest. And I'm going to give you guys number 5 out of my top 5. And it's Will Fuller. And it was last year. And I don't know if you guys remember this game, but it was very exciting. He was actually healthy for this game. right? I mean, a guy who is either hurt,
Yeah, I remember.
suspended, or has decided not to play football for whatever reason. He was actually on full display on Thanksgiving last year, and they played against the Lions, wah, wah, and he had 6 catches, 171 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So if you were in a PPR league, you actually would have received over 35 points for Will Fuller on that week. Now, speaking of receivers, we're going to go from an injured one to a Hall of Famer, one of the greats, Megatron, Calvin Johnson, in 2015 had 35 points. And it wasn't really, when I said 170 yards for Fuller before, Megatron only had 93 yards and 8 catches, but it was the 3 touchdowns that really brought him over that number and got him to those 35.3 points. Then number 3, we actually have a game from last year, and it was the human joystick, Antonio Gibson, or at least he was last year, the human joystick. Now he's like the broken joystick. He's been kind of disappointing, but won't get into that. We're going to talk about the 2020 rookie who actually at the time, he had 115 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns, 5 catches for 21 yards, which was good enough for 36.6 points. And then number 2, we're back to Megatron. Of course, we know Detroit plays on Thanksgiving all the time, so we knew he would be back in the top 5. And on this day in 2014, he had 146 yards and 2 touchdowns and 11 catches. So if you had a PPR league, you're in heaven, 36.6. And the number 1 performance from a few years ago was Amari Cooper. And I'm sure you guys remember this game because he had just been traded to Dallas. And everybody who had Cooper, who was holding on to him, who had him with the Raiders, and he wasn't doing much, right? But he wasn't the A-Rob status where people were dropping him yet. So people were still holding on to Cooper, hoping he would do something. And when he went to Dallas, everyone's like, he's still not going to do what makes us think that he's going to do something in Dallas? Well, this was his coming out party, and he did do something. He had 180 yards and 2 touchdowns on 8 receptions. And this was in 2018. And I remember this game because I just remember the way we look at Cooper Kupp today, how he's always open, always getting the ball. That was Amari Cooper with the best Thanksgiving fantasy day in all time. And that was in 2018 for 38 points.
And not points wise, but thank you, Leon Lett, for the best.
Right. I was just going to say the best overall Thanksgiving game.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now,
kind of amazing that Barry Sanders somehow didn't make it into any of those top 5 performances playing every Thanksgiving, just being what a superstar he was.
Remember, Eckler and Taylor aside, you didn't typically get that many points for a running back. You had running backs on average would get you more points, but the receivers had that ceiling, especially in PPR, where they could explode and get that. And I know Kamara had the 5 touchdowns as well last year.
And Jonathan Taylor seems to be at that realm right
this past week, and Eckler this past week. But the game has also changed. Barry Sanders would get you 100, 120 yards a game, maybe a touchdown or 2. And that was behind a line where they were hitting them behind the line every time, where it was just impossible. If anything, Emmitt Smith, I'm surprised because he would have those 2-3 touchdown games over 100 yards, but Dallas didn't play as much on Thanksgiving as Detroit.
You talked about Gibson. So I went back and I just pulled up his stats from last year, and yeah, it was week 12 against the Cowboys, and that was his best week of the year. And really the rest of the year, it was like 20 points was his high, but then he had but that was like his coming out party, I think, that stuck in people's heads. Yeah. Because the next week he had 1 point. I think he got hurt because they didn't play for a few weeks. And the last 2 weeks, they didn't use him a lot. He had like 8 and 9 points. But I think that was the game that kind of propelled. The weeks before, they had 12 points, 20 points, 16 points. But that one game, I think, is what propelled him into potential superstar status, was that week.
I seem to also remember him being traded exactly right before that game in our league, actually.
Oh, really?
Because we were up in arms because he went for Derrick Henry, and we were like, okay, someone just got robbed, and then Gibson went off for 3 touchdowns. We were all like, okay, we'll shut up now.
Yeah, we all know how that worked out.
All right,
Exactly.
so we do have a question about A.J. Dillon. How do you think he's going to do this week against the Rams defense? You know, the Rams defense gets a lot of talk, but they don't necessarily walk the walk, right? I mean, you're not seeing points-wise for fantasy and their ability to stop the run necessarily. I think A.J. Dillon's actually going to have a very good game, and I think he's going to probably catch 4 or 5 balls on top of that, especially if you're in PPR. I think he's a good play. I probably have him right at the bottom of my top 10. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean he's the guy. You know, with Aaron Jones out, he's getting all the early down work, and he's going to get the third down and pass catching work as well. I wouldn't look at last week and say, okay, you know, this is what's to come. You know, in being the bell cow, he didn't have a great week. I agree with you. I don't know about top 10, but I think he's going to have a good fantasy week.
Yeah, I put him in the top 12 this week. You know, so right around that 10, you know, mark. You know, he's going to get more touches. He's going to be involved. All he has to do is break one, right? To put him to propel him into that top 6 for the week. So yeah, I definitely think if you have him and you have a spot for him on your roster, start him.
And the Rams are giving up over 17 points per game to running backs. So there is that opportunity for him to do well. All right, what else do we have here?
There is that opportunity for him to do well.
Yeah,
we're in the echo chamber.
So Kenneth had asked a question. How do we?
That's you, Brad.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. It is.
Yeah,
me.
I'm on mute.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
It is me. It is me. I was sharing. I was going to share it again, but it pulled up the volume on that. I will.
Please watch TikTok on your own time. Thank you.
No, I was sharing the show. I'll turn it down. Now I can do it. All right. Anyway, so why don't you get to Kenneth's question? He's worried that we didn't see his question. And it looks like it's and Kenneth, again, you know, we love your questions, but if they could be fantasy related, would be more awesome. But we can get to this. Go ahead.
Oh, I still think in the AFC, despite what we've seen the past few weeks, I think Kansas City's defense is starting to come on. You can never rule out Kansas City. CEH is back. And Buffalo is actually heading in the opposite direction. I think right now we might be looking at Kansas City and Indianapolis with the way that they've been coming along. And in the NFC, you can't rule out Green Bay, especially if you know A.J. Dillon continues to do what he's doing. Obviously, you can't rule out the Bucks, and you can't rule out the Rams. So to me, I'm looking at Rams, Packers, Bucks, AFC. I'm looking at Colts. Bills were up there. I now have downgraded them a little bit, and I'm bringing Kansas City back where they belong.
I can't believe I'm about to say this, but the way this team is playing, you can't rule them out either, and it's the New England Patriots. I want to throw up in my mouth, but their defense is playing at they're a top 2 or 3 defense in the league right now, and Mac Jones just plays smart, good decision football. And, you know, they've got a 1-2 punch a la Chubb Hunt with Damian Harris was back last week, and him and Stevenson. This is a team Belichick knows how to win. And you know what? They're sitting atop the AFC East. They've got a defense that can bring them through, and it's sick to my stomach. They don't even have a lot of great pass catchers, but they have a system there that works. This is a team I would be careful of.
Let's be real. Yes, they did beat the Chargers on that field goal. But they've beaten the Jets, they've beaten the Panthers, they've beaten the Browns without Chubb, they beat the Falcons. That's it. So I'm not in there yet. When you know,
they're 7-3, they're leading the division.
It doesn't matter.
And they beat the Jets, but the Jets beat the Tennessee Titans and they beat Cincinnati.
What I'm saying is,
but I'm watching how they're playing.
Look, I
just
can say
watching
that
how
for
they're
every
playing.
team in the league. I'm saying when you're playing, when you've got the Bills twice, you've got the Colts, you've got the Dolphins.
See how
again.
it plays out.
Beat those guys, then come talk to me about how now they're the new team in town again.
Listen, I'm not saying they're the greatest thing since sliced bread. I said they're a team to watch for, and
Sliced bread's overrated anyway.
Okay,
use a freaking knife.
It's not healthy for you.
God,
just like the Pats.
Start talking Belichick and the Patriots and the Commish. Boy blows a gasket.
All right, so both Kenneth and the Facebook user said, "What about Arizona?" Obviously, they're in the picture too, especially D-Hop and Murray come back.
Oh yeah,
you're absolutely right.
Yeah, I mean they've been getting it done without them. So
I mean, Colt McCoy woke up. He's been looking actually very decent as a backup. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's your Thanksgiving surprise, guys?
All right. So I went out and I threw out my five turkeys of the year so far. Okay. Let's see, I'll find that and throw it up here. Turkeys of the year. Okay. And this is based on drafting them and where they were drafted. So I didn't look too far down the draft, but I looked in the first 2 or 3 rounds where people were drafted and pulled them out. Okay. Barkley, we know fell into that second round, but people were still taking chances on him, right? He's only played 5 games this year. We knew he was going to somehow get hurt. I think 15 points is his highest. It's just.
But there was so much hype.
There was hype around him, and
by people smarter than us. There was so much hype.
Yeah. So he's one of my top. These aren't necessarily in order, but you can do with them what you want. And I know this guy's been coming on lately, but Diggs has really not been. I know he's coming on lately. He's got 5 weeks. He has 20. He didn't have a 20-point week until now, right? He didn't hit 20 points in a single week until just now.
I understand that, but he's still a top. What is he, like top 5? No, I mean, let me see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yes. He's still in the top 10 as far as total fantasy points, but he was drafted probably as your third.
1 or 2. Well, 1, 2, or 3.
It was Hill and Adams clearly as
Diggs,
your 2 top. And then the question was with Ridley. I mean, if we're going to talk about turkeys, then it was Ridley and Diggs at that point, and Hopkins. So, somewhere in that second tier, I think the 9th best wide receiver this year so far is Worthy in that second tier. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
He just didn't do it for you early, and now he's picking it up. So if you drafted Diggs, he may have put you in a hole early that you're trying to dig out, no pun intended, dig out of. Right? Because you want guys that in those spots that are getting the points every week. And when you're having, 6 points weeks from your number 2 draft pick, that hurts. Ridley, right? Mid to late second round pick, maybe early third round pick in a lot of leagues. Total dud, just.
And I'm one of the guys who drafted him, so I paid the consequences for that.
Yeah, I mean, I have him in a league too, and it hurts. And now we have before Elijah Mitchell came around, we have 2020's favorite person that he talked about, Chris Carson, right? We could bring the tape back, but he loved Chris Carson. I think he drafted him in every single league he's in, and. Wrong.
I had him last year.
Thank you for bringing up that painful memory, Cyclops.
You're welcome.
I had him last year, which is actually the impetus for me drafting somebody like Ridley before Carson. And I even drafted James Robinson before Carson, because after having him last year and seeing not just how fragile he was, but how Pete Carroll runs that offense. Remember, Seattle last year, I think it was last year, had more rushing yards than any other team in football. But Carson wasn't really the guy doing that. It was just a combination of Homer, DJ Dallas, Penny, just on and on.
Yeah.
But I would agree.
That's because he was injured. But if you looked at the first 2 games of the year, Carson killed it. But once again.
But at Barkley, the point is, not the first two games. Barkley had a great 30-point game too. But the point is, there are certain guys that you just have to be weary of. But he's also, worthy of a later round pick. Maybe you got him in the 5th. Maybe you got him in the 6th.
And that's why I got him. That's why I like him.
And that's all right. There's not a problem. But I agree. Turkey of the year candidate.
I don't think you got him that late, but
I got him 4th. Yeah.
All right.
3rd one.
And then we just talked about him. It's Antonio Gibson. Okay. 5 of 10 weeks this year, he did not hit 10 points.
Yeah.
Now, this is a guy that people were taking late 1st round, early 2nd round. To me, that is a turkey of a showing.
Yeah, preseason he was looking really good.
Yeah, and he was a guy that was hyped.
Yep.
Yeah, he was going to be the next Austin Eckler, exactly.
Or they were going to use him like McCaffrey. There was all this talk. So yeah, he's been a dud. Let's see. Oh, what just happened? Where did that go? All right, we're gonna look and see. I don't know if I can bring it up on here, but where?
What do you want to know?
No, I was looking to see where 2020 got Carson.
Okay. Well, we can do that in a second. But in the meantime, Keith, do you have something?
I do. Mine's a little different. I'm not pulling out, 5 this or 5 that. It's a little more conceptual, kind of thinking, every year the White House president pardons one turkey.
Right.
And it's the thought being, look, we're in multiple leagues. I'm in 7 leagues, Cyclops in 6 leagues. A lot of our listeners, a lot of people are in just one league. And man, this time of year when you're like sitting at 3 and 7, you're out of it for the most part. Or, if whatever it is, if you're out of it, it's an awful feeling. And it's almost like you wish you had a pardon. And so, what I think about with stuff like that is, especially if in one of my leagues where I've got McCaffrey, who's finally back, and Debo Samuel's a really good team, but I've had some bad luck. It's almost like, man, I wish there was like a part 1 and a part 2 to the season, because I really feel like that team can take off. So the thought is a couple of things here. What are some of the things that we could do? Thinking out of the box. Listen, we all love our leagues. We love the way things are done. But for many people, this time of the year, fantasy, it's like you're just playing to not be Pizza Boy or, be the worst team in the league. But what are some of the things? And I had a couple ideas that I'm spitballing around conceptually. So when you're out of it, there's a pardon. That Thanksgiving pardon. So one of them is, not a redraft, but a season that actually has 2 parts split down the middle. You have the first part of the season, and this for people, listen, a good example like that, people that had injuries but did a good job picking up waivers, and now you feel like you do have a team that could make a run in the second half, but almost there's a first half of the season with records, and then the second half of the season, everyone's at 0-0, and you go win-loss records for there, and some way you combine it, and with that, I don't have it completely formulated, but it's like that reprieve. So you're not just dead and not out of it. You have something to play for. You can make trades, this and that. The other thing, something that you've been talking about.
Before you go, let me just tell you, in theory, I agree and understand what you're trying to say. The problem, and I know you're spitballing, the problem is, what if you have somebody? So it would be easy to say you take the top 3 from the first half, you take the top 3 from the second half, and then they're in a round robin or in a playoff tournament, kind of like if you have the top 6 of your league now.
Right.
The problem is, how many of those top 3 from the first half are also going to be in the top half of that second?
Agreed.
And so,
that's
where you run into the problem. I kind of like what we do in our league, which is you have your top 5, and the 6th team to go in the playoffs is based only on points.
On points,
even
exactly.
If you won one game, if you have the 6 most points in the league, you get to go to the playoffs. And that is a way of saying, look, there's bad luck. You play against a guy like 2020 this past week who scored 190 points because he's got Taylor and everybody else, but you scored 160. Do you really deserve that loss?
Right.
So this is a way of helping that. But go ahead. What else are you thinking about?
Another idea, and so aside from just doing that, things to keep things equal, something that Cyclops has talked about that no one's ever bid on, but is playing a double schedule. For exactly the reason that you just said. Yeah, I put up 190 points. Mitch actually had a halfway decent week. He came back and lost. And one of the things to parity that, so you don't end up at 3-7 this type of year because you have such a high points against, which happens, is playing a double schedule. And I'm not saying these are things that we're going to do, but I just like putting this idea out to our viewers, because again, we're in multiple leagues. A lot of our listeners are only in one league, and by this point, you're a little disheartened. So there's things that you can do in your league to get around some of that. And then here's another thought, and it's about the ethics of something like this. And I'm
straight from 2020.
What's that? Deep thoughts.
I said 3 thoughts in a row by 2020.
It's some get $1 out. So here, is this ethical or unethical, or it's interesting if you're out of it, or let's say you're making a run for it right now in your league, and someone that's out of it has a good player, to trade for that player. But you're not giving a player back, but you're giving a draft position for the following year. Something I just love out of the box stuff. And today, that's not about your team being bad or good, but like my thing right now is about the turkey pardon and a little bit out of the box things that we haven't considered or thought about. Is that ethical? Because
for Dynasty,
yes.
Well, that was my next thing.
It's fine. If it's not Dynasty, the person who's not in the playoffs has nothing to lose. And so you cannot have a transaction. Sorry, the lawyer's coming out at me. But you can't have a transaction where you've got nothing to lose.
Well, hold on a second. But the person out of the playoffs would be giving up like a second or a third round pick next year. That's a lot to lose. They know they're out of it this year. They're looking forward to next year. Giving up a pick next year, that's a big loss.
I understand that. But what I'm saying is by not having anything to lose, the loser, the person who's not going to make the playoffs, they have nothing to lose. So they don't have to worry about, look, trade me anything. I'll give you anything for anything. In other words, there's no true bargain. There's no meeting of the minds. There's no bona fide agreement between two parties where one guy has the same amount to lose as he has to gain. And you don't have that with that scenario. I understand what you're saying. And
but I
your question with, is this ethical or unethical? I already know the answer. But that aside, I don't think that that's ethical for Dynasty. Absolutely, 100%, 100% for Dynasty, because the person who didn't make the playoffs still has something to lose because that player will help them next year.
Correct.
So they have something to lose, so it's worthy to get that draft pick back.
Right. Yeah. So I got to go with that. There are if there's no rule in your league against that, is it ethical or unethical? I don't know. Because in a redraft league, of course, you're going year to year. You're basing everything on that year. You're not really trading picks for the next year. Dynasty league obviously is different. So I would, again, I don't know that it's unethical. All right, I don't know that it's not legal in your league, but I would say it's not really ethical. Yeah.
So something that I know other leagues are doing, and this doesn't answer the question of what if you do poorly in the first half, but you're doing better in the second half. But what this rule does is it creates a little more parity. And with parity, like in our league right now, you have the ability, even at 4-8, or 4-6, to go somewhere, or 5-7 to possibly make the playoffs. And that is the super flex with the quarterback, right? And then I've also seen a super flex tied in with an increased tight end point value. So what you're doing is you're making tight ends more valuable, and you are getting rid of, because if you can look at quarterbacks right now, a lot of people in our league have 2 of them, and you still have 10 others that are worthy every week. So why not be able to put a quarterback in your flex? And what that does, and by making tight ends more valuable, there's more wide receivers, there's more running backs available on the waiver wire each week. And that's the point, because right now in your flex, if you have the ability to have a running back in your flex, you have it. So the question is, are there 30 good running backs out there week to week? No, not really. But are there, 30 quarterbacks, even though it's not going to be everybody having a quarterback in their flex, but there are more points available to those quarterbacks. So that's just something I had seen too.
And there's 2 quarterback leagues too. There's a lot of leagues that
start a lot of them. Mm-hmm.
So there's that potential option too. I mean, there's thousands, hundreds of different types of leagues, and that's what makes it fun. So,
and we'll talk about that in the summer, right? Over this coming summer, we'll talk about all the different things that you can do to enhance your league for the next year. Do you guys? Can I talk about the defense real quick?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so I personally got hit really tough. I still won my game. But the person I was playing against, Mike, had the New England defense. And for anybody that either had the New England defense or was playing against New England defense in their complete drubbing again of Atlanta, we saw a team that scored a touchdown, 4 interceptions, 4 sacks, gave up 0 points against, and gave up less than 200 yards. And in our league, which is a defense-heavy league, that's 40 points. So I'm already at a disadvantage Thursday night going into the weekend. I'm down 40, and I have to make that up. So I started thinking, that's a hell of a performance. Back in fantasy football, what were some of the other performances? And I found the best performance in the history of the NFL for a defense. And you might think it's the 1985 Chicago Bears in that season where they were just routing everybody. But it's not. It was actually the 1989 Cleveland Browns of all team. They beat Bubby Brister and the Pittsburgh Steelers 51-0. Let me tell you the stats, and then I'm going to play a little clip. They had 0 points allowed, so it was a shutout. They only gave up 53 yards to the offense. They had 5 fumble recoveries, 3 interceptions, 6 sacks, and 3 defensive touchdowns. And if you're that would have been in our league 62 points. It would have gone down in history as the best.
Meanwhile, something that Bud Carson will remember.
This must have been one of those snowballs.
Debut as the Cleveland Browns went to Pittsburgh against the man he used to be defensive coordinator for, Chuck Noll of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Bobby Brister's second possession on the Steelers' own 5-yard line. Hands off to number 1 pick Tim Worley. Fumble! Clay Matthews in the end zone. Defensive touchdown number 1. It's 7-0. Next possession, Tim Worley. Fumble! Dave Grayson recovers. Browns converted into a field goal, 10-0. Steelers' 4th possession. They try a little dipsy doodle. Lewis Lips has Dave Grayson wrestle the ball away from him. Grayson could go all the way. Another defensive touchdown. 17-0 Cleveland. Tommy, on the replay, Grayson just looked like he was stronger than Lewis Lips.
Every linebacker is stronger than every wide receiver. And any linebacker worth his salt is always, if he gets a chance, is going to rip that ball out and take it the other way.
You never did things like that, did you? Yeah. Brister looking, rolls out, goes deep. But Mark Harper catches the overthrow. 3 fumbles, 1 interception, and 4 possessions for Carson's defense. Browns had some offense, too, on 3rd and 20. Bernie to Tim Manoa, who goes down the near sideline for a 24-yard gain and a first down. Manoa scores 4 plays later, 27-0 Cleveland. Special teams, too. Harry Newsom, the man who got his punts blocked all the time last year, punts it to the ice cube. Gerald McNeil. Down the field for 42 yards, helped set up a bar field goal. 30-0. Browns at the half, 228 yards total for Cleveland, 29 for Pittsburgh. In the 3rd quarter, Bubby intercepted. Boy, Dave Grayson is all over the place. His 2nd touchdown, 44-0 Browns. They add another one, 51-0 Cleveland, a resounding win for Bud Carson. The Steelers' worst defeat ever, their previous worst, 54-7 to the Packers in 1951, and the Browns have scored the most points since 1964 when they won the NFL.
There is so much good stuff to unpack in there.
My God.
First of all,
Boomer.
How great is it to hear Chris Berman in his prime?
And his prime was amazing.
It's such a pleasure to hear that. But some of those players, like Lewis Lips,
yeah.
and
Bernie.
Grayson, the Ice Cube, Bernie, right? Bernie, the sidearm Susie was the quarterback for the Browns. Just
and they did it in Pittsburgh. Oh my God, the terrible towels were using it to cry their eyes out that night.
So that was 1989, and I think I started playing. I honestly think I started playing fantasy football in 1990 in college, and then I think my first year when I did it with you and Mike and that whole crew was probably 90. It's probably honestly it was like 93, which would have been my first year doing it with everybody. So it was before I started playing fantasy football. So I know I didn't have them on my team. But I remember there was a couple of years ago, I want to say it was Baltimore. The Ravens had a crazy defensive game. And I'd have to look, I'd have to go through and try to look it up. But they, there was they had like 40 or 50 points maybe or something like that. That was also a huge game.
All right, Kenneth said if Cordarrelle Patterson doesn't go this week, would it be wise to start Foreman or Stevenson? Yes, the answer is yes, but you start Stevenson. You don't start Foreman. If you have to pick one of those two, you go with Stevenson.
Agreed.
Guys, anything special on the Thanksgiving menu?
Your
typical turkey stuffing. What are you guys doing?
One of my kids wanted homemade mac and cheese, so I'm going to try to recreate the Steve Kane mac and cheese from camping. Do the best I can. Obviously, unfortunately, he's not around to get that recipe from, but I'm going to do the best I can from remembering him make that and watching that. So that is something I'm going to
If you want a recipe, tomorrow. Let me know. I make one every year. So if you want my recipe, I'll give it to you. But
I don't want lactose free.
No, it's not. Nope.
All right, shoot it over to me.
I will.
Right. Very nice. Yeah, we're just doing the typical turkey and giblets, all the good stuff. Although I'm very excited about the honey baked ham, the very Jewish honey baked ham that we'll be enjoying as well.
Do you eat the little thing that hangs down from the turkey?
Yes. Yeah, I like that.
Is that the giblet?
That's the giblets.
You fry it up.
What about you, Commish? What are you doing?
You're getting a honey baked ham.
My sister requested we bring a honey baked ham, so I am following the request. Correct.
We are not doing turkey. We are doing brisket.
Yep.
And mac and cheese. And then we've got, the British influence for the vegetarians. We've got a chestnut loaf, and we've got Yorkshire puddings. And stuffing, green beans, and yams and all that. So it'll be nice.
I'll tell you, the football lineup isn't nearly as exciting on this Thursday. It doesn't look like great matchups, but you know what? We'll have still. It's the three elements: football, family, and food. So all good.
But a lot of fantasy value in the games.
Yeah.
A decent amount. So yeah, everybody enjoy. I think we're doing a turkey. I'm not a huge turkey fan, but I almost bought a brisket the other night, but I think I'm going to go out and get one tomorrow and cook that. So to enjoy that rather than the turkey, because I'm
all right. Well, fan, listen, good luck to everybody this week. Remember, get your lineups in early on Thursday. Sunday, I'm actually going to the game. I will not be able to do a podcast. Nice. If you guys want to do it, you can do it, but I won't be here. But I can do a live broadcast from the game. But
that would be kind of cool, actually.
Yeah,
we might be, infringing on some copyrights, but who cares? But I would say on behalf of everyone here at the Buzz and for everyone that's been listening to us and asking questions, wishing you a very, very happy Thanksgiving. Hope you have a great time.
Javi and Kenneth and guys, thank you all
Travis,
for being
and
a part
Facebook
of the
user.
Yeah, so the Facebook users, I believe we had, I don't know who all the Facebook users are, but we thank you out there for the Facebook users. I know you could have put your name in, but it's fine. It's not a problem. So we appreciate it.
So Kenneth did ask, will there be a Sunday show Sunday? Kenneth will let you know. 2020 and I will talk about that. And I believe I am available. I believe. So we'll talk about that and let you know.
Stay tuned
soon. But enjoy your week.
All right.
And happy Thanksgiving.